Hi, my name is Courtney Barnes, and I'm here today to give you guys a few informative facts on the game of softball. No, this is not one of your typical speeches on why softball is harder than baseball or any other sport for that matter. I'm just here today to give you guys a few different requirements and facts on softball. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of information. In 1931, softball was founded, and then in 1934, a set of rules began to be set for softball. In 1991 was whenever the Summer Olympic softball team was founded into it, although today it no longer is. I got that information with a little bit of help from Barry Simmons and from Lisa Fernandez. Lisa Fernandez actually is a USA Olympic softball player. So let's get started with the infield, guys. Infielders normally have shorter throws than the outfield. Infielder starts about right here, and they always point their glove to where they're throwing it to. So if you put that throw all together, it'll look a little something like this. You come up and come over, and it'll look like that. Also, during practice or even during a game, just whatever works for you, a lot of people like to practice coming over. That's just because it helps you guide the ball directly to where it's going. Next, we're going to start off with a few different things, a few different places in the infield that you play. So first, let's start with the catcher. The catcher is really important. The catcher is kind of like the leader on the field. She calls the pitches for the pitcher, and she also keeps everybody in mind. She's mindful, and she has to be ready at all times. The pitcher and the catcher have to have chemistry together, and without chemistry, normally it's not going to work out. Next, we have our pitcher. The pitcher, like I said earlier, has to have chemistry with their catcher. The pitcher is the one that is pitching the ball to the opposing team's batters. She has different types of pitches, from a screwball to a curveball to a rise ball to a changeup to a drop ball to just various different ones. Some pitchers have 4 to 5 pitches. Some pitchers only have 1 to 2. It just depends on how good their spins are and how good or how fast they are. So next, let's move to the base positions. You have first base. First base is a corner position, and she is the one that receives the balls from the throws from the other infielders when it's a grounder. The first baseman also plays pretty close in just because she has to be ready to cover bunts at all times, and she has to be pretty quick just to be ready and on her toes. Next, you have your second baseman. Your second baseman is typically your second fastest person on the field due to the fact that she covers a lot of ground. Second base is also known as a middle infielder. Second base also has to cover first base during a bunt because the first baseman runs in on a bunt to cover the bunt. Next, we're going to move on to shortstop. Shortstop is almost always your fastest person on the field, simply because she covers a lot of ground just like the second baseman does, except for on this side of the field, the balls hit a lot harder and a lot quicker. The shortstop also has to have a really, really good arm to be able to get it from her side of the field to first base's side of the field. Next, we have our third baseman. Your third baseman has to be pretty quick-minded, just simply because the ball gets hit really hard over at her. Also, she has a disadvantage because most of the time on a right-handed batter, the third baseman will be seeing the batter's back. She can't really see where the pitch is going all the time, so sometimes it kind of makes her life difficult, but it's okay because if you have a good third baseman, they can cover a lot of ground in a lot of time. Also, your third baseman has to have a really good arm to be able to get the ball from third base over to first base. Also, you always have to remember that your first base and your third base will be playing closer in. Your middle infielders, which is your second base and your shortstop, will be playing closer back to the grass. So that does it for infield, so let's move on to outfield now. Outfielders normally are going to have longer throws. Their arms are going to come from here, and they're going to throw over, not from here like an infielder. Theirs are longer. Typically, an outfielder will have a crow hop, which will look something like this. They'll come up and throw. So let's get started with left field. Your left fielder typically has to be able to read the ball off the bat pretty quickly, just because the ball gets hit really hard over to the left side. So your left fielder also backs up the center fielder. Your left fielder has to have a pretty good arm to be able to hit her cutoff and throw it to second base or even third base and even all the way to home. Next, you have your center fielder. Your center fielder has to be prepared at all times and ready because she backs up the left fielder and the right fielder. The center fielder also protects her territory. With that being said, the center fielder has to be very quick and very fast and ready at all times because she has to be really quick-witted just for the simple fact that she does have a lot of ground to cover in the outfield. Your center fielder also has to be able to hit her cutoff. She has to be able to hit third base, second base, and all the way home. Your right fielder is last. She becomes really important once you get to the college level, simply because opposing batters are now able to hit to the opposite field a lot easier than we used to be able to. Your right fielder also can get lucky sometimes if a grounder is hit in between the first base and the second base. She can actually come up from the outfield and throw a runner out at first if the ball's hit hard enough and she gets to it quick enough. Your right fielder also has to be very quick and has to have a good arm in order to be able to get it from right field all the way over to third base, second base, or even her cutoff, or even home. So that does it for the outfield. Let's get started with hitting now. During hitting, you have to remember a few different things. One of the main things I believe in is that if you see the ball, you hit the ball. If you can't see the ball, then you can't hit the ball. Also, you have to score runs to win, and in order to score runs, you have to hit the ball. So with that being said, let's get started with a few of the fundamentals. You have to remember that your hands have to be high, and a trigger. Some people have a trigger, and their trigger would be stepping. Mine, however, is just being wide. I like to be wide, and I like to be up. So with that being said, it'll all look like this. And remember, you want to have this knee kind of straight and this knee right here a little bit more bent. And also, you want to have this and this attached like a string so they move together. With that being said, guys, I hope you realize it takes a lot of practice and determination in order to be a successful softball player. Thank you.